Wow, is that a story and challenge for old Earth theorists. Anyway, let's go to he or she's next point. Principle of superposition. Unless they have been distributed, the strata at the bottom of the stack were deposited first, and the ones at the top that are the next oldest, and so on, with the youngest strata being on top. I don't know what the first point, unless they have been distributed, means, but I guess there's a caveat. Well, anyway, you get the point here. The point is, you know, we've got two positions now. Evidence has not been presented for each. Each are saying the opposite. It appears that the creationist account was more logically coherent and involves less assumptions. All the creationist account said was these, you know, huge amounts of the strata contradict what you just heard on this University of Maryland page for the undergraduates, and then a lot of philosophy was involved in the undergraduates page here on the University of Maryland site, saying, you know, demanding that everybody believes certain time sequences and so forth. Now, yeah, so anyway, let's go to some examples now to see who's right and who's wrong. So the issue with the increasing progressive development of strata is as follows. When Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980, we gained unbelievable information about, well, how the Earth reacts in catastrophes. And it's difficult to discuss what I'm discussing right now, because the average person is so unbelievably conditioned with the idea that A, the Earth is very old, B, to deny that is almost just embarrassing. It means you're just really nuts. And C, you make sure that you believe the Earth is really, really old without ever really looking into the evidence yourself, and without ever being able to really explain it to anybody. This includes scientists, the professionals involved in the field. But the simple problem is, I guess we're just going to have to move forward regardless if that's the case, because before you turn off your radio, the evidence for the Earth not being old and all these processes like of strata forming happening very, very quick, you know, on the order of 1,000 years or a few months or something like that, is so much stronger empirically than is the evidence that the old Earth and the Darwinists the old Earth geologists give us. For example, when when Mount St. Helens erupted, we got to see this happen in real time. See that process happen over days, weeks, and months. We saw a canyon form, a petrified forest form in Spirit Lake, all kinds of strata layers with the sediments, the small things on the bottom, and the big animal-like things up on the top. All of this we got to see in real time. So it's absolutely empirical. Now, on the other hand, what do the old Earth geologists, who are really in line with the Darwinians, what do they tell us? They say nothing about this real-time empirical evidence from the Mount St. Helens event. I mean, there should have been armies of scientists out there all over the place analyzing this. Instead, there was only a few creationist scientists out there, while all the other professional geologists, who knows what they were doing, probably just closing their eyes to the evidence and abdicating all their theories and ignoring the empirical data. So this real-time formation of an old Earth appearing situation happening in real time is absolutely empirical. And on the other hand, the old Earth scenarios, where the professionals and the experts ask us to believe all these invisible things, that, oh, it happened over a million years, and oh, it happened this way and that way. They have all their theories for how it happened, none of which anybody's ever seen, none of which are empirical, all of which are wild philosophy. And I'm actually supposed to sit here and ignore the empirical processes that formed the exact same thing in just a few weeks at Mount St. Helens. You know, the biggest mystery of all is that this doesn't make it. Well, it's not a mystery, of course. This doesn't make it on the Discovery Channel. Richard Dawkins doesn't comment on this. Ken Miller doesn't comment on this. All the people emailing me about carbon-14, because I did 2 shows on it now, and I referred to all this. They don't have and not a peep. Nobody says anything. See, and that's why it's difficult for me to talk about this, because the average person is absolutely taken by the mass opinion. Oh, it's what the group thinks. And there's pressure to go along with that, whether you know it or not. So to go against it, and there's this what appears to you to be an incredibly tiny minority going against the stream, it's difficult for the average person, unfortunately, to go against that. And they will go with it no matter how irrational, how backwards the mass opinion is. No matter if it's, for example, like we're saying, a total empirical process that happened that explains so much about our world. It's unbelievable. And we can see the empirical processes for Earth formation and strata layers and whatnot happening right before our very eyes. Nope, the conformist pressure will make them reject that, turn their back on that, ignore it, and they will instead follow their wild theories about all the invisible processes, about their theories that they want us to believe formed these things over millions of years. I mean, this is just once. Everywhere you look points to young Earth. Everywhere. I mean, I've just discussed, if we've had the Antimatter Radio Show going daily now for just a few months, and I've only had time to do 3 shows on it. We did 2 shows last year with James Nienhuis, author of Ice Age Civilizations. I mean, but there's literally mountains of things I haven't even covered that I could. I mean, here, just read this. Here's just Michael Cremo. I've got Michael Cremo's book, Forbidden Archaeology. Okay, here, page 12. Okay, just happened to be reading it the other day, and I looked at this and said, "Oh wow, this is interesting." Tajir Van Andel looked at a series of sandstone and shale deposits in Wyoming, parts of which apparently were submerged in a body of water resembling our present Gulf of Mexico. The rates at which the sediment is deposited in the Gulf of Mexico are known. Applying these rates to the Wyoming strata, Van Andel calculated that they could have been deposited in 100,000 years. Yet geologists and paleontologists agree that the series spans a time of 6 million years. I mean, this just goes on for the next page and a half in Cremo's incredibly, one of the most well-documented books I've ever seen. Just all about how this is worldwide. This is the case. And what they interpret it as, oh, the fossil record's missing. Why? I interpret it as the Earth is young. Okay? Here, listen to this clip here from Steve Allen discussing Spirit Lake, the petrified forest, and how the strata layers all formed and everything after Mount St. Helens. Just absolutely, this is some of the most powerful. I'm looking right now on my computer, a picture of Spirit Lake, 20,000 logs floating in the lake. That's what he's going to talk about here. Just some of the most amazing data, virtually unknown anywhere. This is the biggest travesty imaginable. Anyway, here's a clip.
With petrified logs representing an individual forest, and as I explained earlier, the succession of forests, supposedly 27 distinct forests at Yellowstone, was evidence of tens of thousands of years of repeated forest growth, one on another. These forests grew, then soil developed, then another soil formed after a forest was buried, and then a second forest grew, and that whole thing happened repeatedly. And that could require multiplied thousands and thousands of years, the whole succession of strata, perhaps 40 million years in duration. We have seen at Mount St. Helens a miniature laboratory for the study of deposition of petrified forests, and the the way the logs float in Spirit. A million logs landed in Spirit Lake after the eruption due to that giant water wave, and those logs have been floating around in that lake now for 23 years. I've been able to watch how the logs float and how they sink to the bottom of the lake. And one of the amazing things that we've discovered is that the logs in Spirit Lake float in upright position, and then as they sink to the bottom, they can stand on the bottom and get buried in vertical position, having the appearance of being a forest, part of a forest, a tree that grew in place. And so that's very interesting. As we did the sonar survey there at Mount St. Helens, we discovered something like 20,000